Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. We are sitting with Mr. Jae Yang, the chief architect for Project TXA. We're going to run through the tokenomics of the project for you guys today. Jay, how are you doing? You ready to get into it?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. So first and foremost, tell me about Project TXA and give me a summary of what this token is doing.
Yeah, so Project TXA is a project that open source and open architecture project that's building a settlement layer that is cross-chain that different exchanges can build on top of. So one of the example exchange that's building on top of Project TXA's decentralized settlement layer, or DSL right now, is a company, Tacen. Tacen is building a what they call hybrid DEX. So fast order book, and that's it. So Tacen's exchange does not take custody because TXA's DSL has a mechanism to allow for traders own custody, and not allowing exchanges control over it.
Okay, yeah, and as seen in recent events, that definitely gives a lot more power to the person, which is very much needed right now. And so in that same vein, when it comes to the tokens, then so talk to me about the incentives to acquire them, so to speak, holding, utility, and so on.
Right. So the TXA token, or the token, is used in staking to operate a validator in the network. So that's like a very straightforward description. And what do the validators do? So the decentralized settlement layer has this concept called settlement data provider, basically SDPs. SDPs are validators. And what the SDPs do is they are an open source software that one can compile and run on one's own machine, or download the binary from somewhere, trusted source, or whatever. Basically it's a mining application for the DSL. Now, what it does actually is listens for and executed trades from participating exchanges or participating interfaces that are connected to the settlement layer. So, for an example, Tacen's exchange, when the orders are matched, it will emit a signed trades that are signed by the buyer, signed by seller, and signed by the exchange. And these things get recorded by the settlement data providers, that later, when a trader requests settlement, the settlement data providers are the ones who are providing what we call obligation data between the traders. So Alice owes Bob, Bob owes Charlie, and so on and so forth. And the token is used for collateralizing or putting an insurance fund for the network. So big problem is that validators and oracles and all of these things can lie. They can lie about the data that they provide. And one guard against it is to ensure that any validator, or in our case, settlement data provider, has to put up certain amount of collateral so that they're insuring themselves against, they're making a mistake, or they're lying, or whatever it is. So we're trying to disincentivize perverse behavior of colluding with one another, providing incorrect data, and all of that stuff. And the way in which the TXA is used is as a part of collateral. Now, vast majority of the collateral will be in stablecoin, but the over collateralization requirement above what is required is going to be in TXA, and that gives additional security to the network. And TXA is going to be very highly volatile, and it's very thinly traded right now. So we don't think that it's safe to use it as a main collateral requirement, but we'll use it as an over collateralization requirement. The token can also be used for paying as a part of a fee, like a fee replacement in the exchanges that are built on top of the decentralized settlement layer. So that's quite useful, as well as being able to cast a vote in the decentralized settlement layer now that sets certain rules. Because, well, if you have TXA and you are staking it into a STP, then you're a honest actor that should be listened to when certain votes are cast. Like for example, setting fees, ranges of security parameters, and all that stuff.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And so from there, can you walk me through the supply breakdown of the coin token?
Yeah, of course. Right now, there's only about 2.5 million tokens outstanding in circulating supply. The team has 8 million assigned, but that is being unlocked over a 5-year period, and then the advisors have certain amount that unlocks over 6-year period. Total number of tokens ever in existence is going to be 50 million tokens, 10 million of which is foundations that we intend on setting aside for future developments and all that stuff for and driven by foundations grant community. There is some reserves that are being kept, roughly 12 million. All in all, the team has been very careful in releasing new tokens, even though some of them have already unlocked. I would even say that team has shown a lot of good judgment by agreeing to lock up a token for another couple months, 9 months, and they start unlocking around March again. But they were supposed to be unlocked almost a year ago.
Okay. Yeah. So the team's definitely reasonable when it comes into this.
Yeah.
And I guess from there, so walk me through the timeline of where things are currently and what's expected to be coming next and when.
Right. So what we're doing right now is updating the specifications for technical specifications for the TXA's cross-chain settlement protocol. So what I mean by that is it's a technical instruction and requirements that can be taken by another engineer. They can go through it and implement a alternate version of various software. So that does the same thing. So for an example, settlement data provider, we're writing right now in language called Go, and it's a very good language. But maybe someone wants to write it in Rust or C++ or whatever. And in order for them to do it, we need a unifying single source of truth for what the software should be doing and how it should interact with another software. So that's what we're focusing on, creating a not really a formal specification, but a technical specification. That's first thing that we're doing. Should be out in a couple of days. Second thing is to move on to what we like to call automated fraud prevention. So we want to have a situation where the detection of invalid obligation reports are automatically done, and that for reporting those things as wrong, then the sort of like people who are community watchdogs can earn a little bit of fee for correcting frauds and so on and so forth. So that we're developing a system where that can be done automatically just by running a script or running a software or whatever it is.
Okay.
Third thing we're doing is we're updating various contracts associated with settlements so that we characterize what the gas cost is and then figure out ways to minimize it and all of that sort of like gas optimization type of work. But the main thing that we're really doing is trying to make sure that we can demonstrate cross-chain settlement in a testnet scenario. So for an example, we would have Ethereum testnet, and then what we also want to do is have a Polygon testnet and be able to see number one, trades between traders who deposit assets in those two networks, and then two, be able to settle between those two networks. So I think demonstrating that will be a huge win. And finally, we want to test scenarios where the settlement data providers are providing incorrect value, and then making sure that all of the fraud detection and dispute resolution works correctly. So that's like a near term within 2 or 3 months time frame.
Okay. And I guess the last thing I really want to cover is any sort of comparing and contrasting you would do with other projects that would help people just kind of classify you in their mind with what they're already familiar with.
Right. Um, I think the one way to think about it is what it's if you take something like Cosmos, and then reduce the functionality of Cosmos just for the purposes of settling trades. Because Cosmos is a general purpose platform. You can write smart contracts on it that does general purpose things. But really, what we're looking for in our application space is just to settle financial assets across different chains. And so you can think of cross-chain protocol, settlement protocol, and that the TXA has as a way to transition from a full-blown blockchain that has a bunch of chains that needs to coincide with, versus a bridge which only does one thing and creates another asset on another. So it's somewhere in the middle where it interacts with multiple chains and then handles settlements on those chains. But it's similar concept to Cosmos in having a sort of interchain layer. Other projects that are similar to it, I think Lightning Network is similar in concept, because, well, what it does is you're creating a payment channel on a layer 2, and in order to do it, the person who's creating a payment channel is depositing or collateralizing or immobilizing the asset in a Bitcoin address, and that allows for off-chain trade. Now, and then finally, there's a third one that's very similar, and that's DYDX, because DYDX is a DEX that allows very fast order book and order matching. So the intent of the settlement layer is to foster that kind of exchanges to be built on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, definitely. It sounds like there's a lot of comparable things in there, but if anyone has any questions about more specifics on it, don't be afraid to reach out. We'll try to get you any answers we can. But I guess, Jay, just to wrap things up, is there anything else that you want to add about the tokenomics of the project, or maybe just about the project in general?
Yeah. So, what we want to do is ensure that the people who are getting into this project can get into it with very minimal amount of tokens, right? So what we don't want to have is a situation where one needs to have huge amount to participate in the operation of the network. So the settlement data providers are what we want to do is make sure that community operates and not big huge companies. And when the community operates their own, person can operate his or her own settlement data provider, and that will probably only require somewhere in the range of $200 worth of collateral, which is reasonable, small enough, but it's also useful because then that STP can help settle $200 worth of settlement volume, which is maybe there's a lot of them, a lot of small ones. So that's been my kind of focus and philosophy, which is allow community a broader access and ability to contribute to the network. The next thing is sort of kind of user experience perspective. So when one is running a settlement data provider, we want to make sure it's very obvious what is happening with the settlement data provider by providing a dashboard or a user interface. I think what Lightning Network node operators always complain about, and I ran one for years, one that had multiple channels and all that, is it doesn't really tell you much about what is happening. unless you type in a command and say, hey, show me a report, fee report. And so learning lessons from that, I want to make sure that the hobbyist operators, the community members who are operating these are able to see status right away.
Yeah, it makes sense. You want inclusivity for people who are potentially not, this isn't their entire life, and it's something they're
Yeah,
potentially dabbling into. You don't want them to have to be financially heavily invested or have a ton of knowledge about this stuff just to get
yeah.
involved. So yeah, that's very well done. So all right, Jay, well listen again, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you everyone for watching. If you have questions for Jay, we'll have some links below, or you can just leave a comment. And Jay, once again, where should people go to learn more if they want to?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about Project TXA, you can go to the website, www.txa.app. And that's the main project website. So txa.app.